Listen to me. I know why you're searching for signs. Because when someone goes silent, your nervous system starts trying to solve the mystery like it's a puzzle that will finally give you peace. You replay their tone, you analyze their last message, you check for patterns, you wonder if they are watching you, if they are missing you, if they are planning to reach out. And underneath all of that, there is one raw truth. You don't want to feel stupid for caring. You don't want to believe you were easy to leave. You don't want to accept that the person you opened your heart to could just disappear and feel nothing. But I need you to shift something today because the real question isn't, are they going to come back? The real question is, if they come back, are they coming back safer, not sweeter, not more romantic, not more nostalgic, safer, more consistent, more accountable, because attention is cheap. Missing you is not the same as choosing you. Reaching out is not the same as returning with change, and your heart deserves more than a moment of relief, followed by another round of confusion. You are not looking for signs to feed your hope. You are looking for evidence that someone is becoming emotionally safer, more consistent, and more accountable. And that is a different standard entirely, because signs are often about them easing their discomfort, but evidence is about them respecting your reality. Signs can be a late night message because they felt lonely. Evidence is them showing up in the daylight with clarity. Signs can be watching your stories. Evidence is having a conversation that doesn't dodge responsibility. Signs can be saying, I miss you. Evidence is saying, I hurt you and I understand why you don't trust me, and I'm willing to rebuild this properly. And I want you to feel the weight of that because the thing that keeps people trapped isn't love, it's the addiction to uncertainty. It's living in the almost, the maybe, the what if, because uncertainty makes every tiny breadcrumb feel like a feast. It makes every small gesture feel like destiny, and you start lowering the bar without even noticing. You start calling inconsistency complexity. You start calling avoidance being overwhelmed. You start calling silence needing space. And sometimes, yes, people do need space, but space without communication is not space, it's absence. And absence is not a relationship, it's a place your heart goes to ache. So if they reach out, if they hover near your world, if they test the waters, I'm not telling you to be cold, I'm not telling you to punish them. I'm telling you to be wise, because wisdom is the difference between a reunion and a relapse. And the way you stay wise is you stop asking, do they want me? And you start asking, do their actions create safety? Because wanting you is not rare. Plenty of people want the comfort you give, the attention you offer, the softness you bring, but safety, real safety, is rare, and you are allowed to require it. What does evidence look like? It looks like consistency over time, not intensity for a week. It looks like them not disappearing when the conversation gets real. It looks like them not punishing you with distance when you express a need. It looks like them being willing to hear your feelings without making you feel guilty for having them. It looks like accountability that doesn't come with excuses attached, because an excuse is not an apology. It looks like, I see what I did, I see the impact, I don't want to repeat that pattern, and I'm willing to do this differently. And then, the most important part, they actually do it differently. And let me say this gently because I know your heart is tender. You can have compassion for their fear without sacrificing yourself to it. You can understand that some people learned closeness as danger, that vulnerability feels like exposure, that intimacy can feel suffocating. But their fear does not get to become your prison. Their wounds do not get to become your daily reality. And your empathy does not mean you sign a contract to accept less than you need, because love without emotional safety turns into self-abandonment, and you were not put on this earth to abandon yourself just to keep someone else comfortable. So here is how you hold your power. You stop performing to be chosen. You stop auditioning for their attention. You stop twisting yourself into the easy-to-love version of you, the version that asks for nothing, the version that stays calm while your heart is on fire, the version that pretends you're fine with crumbs. You don't need to be smaller to be loved. You need to be respected to feel safe, and if someone comes back, they don't come back to the old access. They come back to the new standard. You can say, with calm strength, I'm open to a conversation, but I need clarity. You can say, I'm not doing on and off again. You can say, if we're going to rebuild, I need consistency, communication, and accountability. And if they respond to that with defensiveness, with avoidance, with pressure, with guilt, with disappearing, then you have your answer. Because someone who is becoming emotionally safer will not punish you for having boundaries. They will respect them. Someone who is becoming more consistent will not make you chase. They will show up. Someone who is becoming accountable will not make you feel crazy for remembering what happened. They will validate your experience and care enough to repair. And please hear this. Your job is not to decode them into loving you. Your job is to protect the part of you that still believes in love, because that part is precious and it doesn't deserve to be dragged through confusion again and again. You can still be kind, you can still be warm, you can still be open, but you stay anchored in reality, not fantasy, because fantasy says, this time will be different because they texted. Reality says, this will be different if their behavior is different. Fantasy says, they miss me so it means they've changed. Reality says, change shows up in patterns, not in pulses. So yes, watch for the signs if you want, but don't worship them. Let signs be a doorway, not a decision. Let them be an invitation to observe, not an invitation to surrender, because the goal is not that they reach out. The goal is that if they reach out with the capacity to be in your life without breaking you, with the maturity to communicate, with the courage to be consistent, with the humility to own what they did, and with the willingness to build something that doesn't require you to keep shrinking your needs to survive. Listen to me. I want you to stop thinking that if they reach out, it means you've won. Because the truth is, the real victory is not getting a message. It's getting your peace back. It's being able to breathe again without checking your phone like your worth is hiding inside a notification. It's not having your entire mood rise and fall based on whether a person who once chose distance is choosing closeness today. When an avoidant is planning to reach out, it usually isn't loud or dramatic. It's quiet testing, small bridges, and gentle moves toward closeness that still protect their pride. And I know how that messes with you because you can feel them near, but you can't hold them. You can sense the shift, but you can't trust it. It's like they're standing at the edge of your life with one foot in and one foot out, and you're sitting there wondering, do I open the door? Do I lock it? Do I pretend I don't care? And your heart is exhausted from being both the lover and the detective. So let me explain what's really happening in those quiet tests, because once you understand the psychology, you stop taking it personally and you stop letting it control you. Avoidants don't just fear closeness, they fear the moment closeness demands consistency. They fear being seen and they fear failing at love, because failing at love feels like being exposed, and being exposed feels like shame. And shame is the thing they will do almost anything to avoid, even if it costs them someone they genuinely care about. That's why the reach out often comes in small, carefully chosen moves. The first thing you'll notice is a low-risk opener, something that lets them feel the water temperature without jumping in, a simple, hey, a random meme, a reaction, a question that could be answered with one word. And the reason they do that is simple. It allows them to keep their dignity. If you respond coldly, because they can pretend it wasn't that deep, it allows them to retreat without having to admit they were vulnerable. And if you've ever wondered, why can't they just say what they feel? It's because saying what they feel would mean taking emotional responsibility, and responsibility is the very thing they've been avoiding. Then you'll see the proximity without commitment. They start hovering, watching your stories, liking a post after weeks of silence, showing up in the places they know you'll notice, and this is not always manipulation. Sometimes it's longing with a shield on. It's them trying to feel close without the risk of being close, because to them, closeness means expectations, and expectations feel like pressure, and pressure triggers their old survival response, which is to pull away. You might also notice indirect contact through mutual friends. They ask about you, they mention you casually, they check if you're dating, they act like they're just curious, but what they're really doing is scanning for danger. Danger to them means rejection. It means humiliation. It means being the one who comes back and finds out you're fine without them. Because that is the moment their ego can't handle, not because they're evil, but because their nervous system still thinks rejection equals annihilation, and they'd rather stay silent than risk feeling that. And sometimes the most confusing part, they bring nostalgia. They drop a memory like a breadcrumb. Remember that place? I heard that song. I drove past that street. And your heart jumps because it feels intimate. It feels like a bridge, but nostalgia is safe for them. It lets them touch the emotional bond without having to repair what broke it. It's like lighting a candle in a room they set on fire, and you need to remember this. Memories are not accountability. Nostalgia is not change. Nostalgia is just emotion without responsibility. Now, here's where it gets important. When they're planning to reach out, they often test your emotional availability, not just whether you'll reply, but whether you'll still be soft with them. They'll ask, "How have you been?" And they'll watch your tone. They'll see if you're angry. They'll see if you're open. They'll see if they can step back in without consequences. And this is where you must stay grounded, because you can be kind without being easy to access. You can be warm without being wide open. You can respond without surrendering the entire relationship back to the old pattern. You'll also notice a softening. The sharpness goes down, the defensiveness fades, and sometimes you'll hear a line that sounds like ownership. "I didn't handle things well. I've been thinking, I've missed you." And I'm not going to tell you to ignore that because it might be real, but I am going to tell you to watch what happens next, because real reaching out isn't a sentence, it's a conversation, and real change isn't a feeling, it's a pattern. This is the moment you need to stop reacting from hunger and start responding from self-respect, because your heart has been through enough, and you don't need another cycle where they return. You melt, they relax. And then the moment intimacy asks for consistency, they vanish again. You do not need that lesson twice. You don't need to prove you can survive what already broke you. So if they do these quiet tests, if they build these small bridges, you let them, but you don't run across the bridge carrying your dignity. You walk slowly, you observe. You let them show you whether they can stay, whether they can communicate, whether they can handle your needs without making you feel guilty for having them. Because the difference between a reach out and a real return is this. A reach out is about easing their anxiety. A real return is about building safety for you. And I want you to remember this. You don't have to punish them. You don't have to chase them. You don't have to beg them. You simply hold your standard. You let them do the work of coming towards you, not halfway, not when it's convenient, not when they're lonely, but with clarity, with consistency, with the courage to be seen. Because if someone is truly planning to reach out in a meaningful way, they won't just tap the glass. They'll eventually knock like they intend to come in. And if they don't, then what they wanted wasn't you. It was the comfort of knowing you were still there, and you are not a comfort object. You are a human being with a heart, with a life, with needs that matter, and you are allowed to require the kind of love that doesn't disappear when it gets real. So yes, watch for the signs if you want, but don't worship them. Let signs be a doorway, not a decision. Let them be an invitation to observe, not an invitation to surrender, because the goal is not that they reach out. The goal is that if they reach out with the capacity to be in your life without breaking you, with the maturity to communicate, with the courage to be consistent, with the humility to own what they did, and with the willingness to build something that doesn't require you to keep shrinking your needs to survive. Listen to me. Your power is not in decoding them, it's in staying grounded in your standards. So if they return to the new you, not the old access. And I know that sounds hard when you still have feelings, when you still remember the good moments, when you still hear their voice in your head at night. But I need you to understand something. Loving someone does not mean you hand them the keys to your peace. Missing someone does not mean you reopen a door that kept slamming on your heart. And hope does not mean you ignore the lessons that silence tried to teach you. Because the danger isn't that they come back, the danger is that they come back the same. And you welcome them with the same softness, the same overgiving, the same self-abandonment. And then you end up in the same place, waiting, wondering, trying to be easy, trying to be cool, trying to not ask for too much, and slowly losing yourself again. And you call it love. But it's not love if it costs you your dignity. It's not love if it trains your nervous system to live in anxiety. It's not love if you have to shrink to keep someone from running. So let's talk about standards, not in a cold way, in a sacred way, because standards are not walls. They are the way you protect what is precious. And your heart is precious, your time is precious, your trust is precious. And if they reach out, if they step back into your world, they do not get the old version of you that accepted uncertainty as normal. They meet the version of you that learned, the version of you that stopped begging for clarity and started choosing it, the version of you that understands that consistency is not a bonus, it's the baseline. And I need you to be honest about this. Part of you wants them to reach out because it would validate your pain. It would make the story feel like it had meaning. It would prove you weren't crazy for caring. And I'm not judging you for that. That's human. That's the heart trying to make sense of loss. But validation cannot be your anchor, because if you anchor your worth to whether they return, you will always be vulnerable to someone else's fear, someone else's mood, someone else's readiness, and you deserve a life that doesn't depend on someone else's emotional weather. So here is how you stay grounded. You decide in advance what access looks like, not based on how much you miss them, but based on what you need to feel safe. And safe doesn't mean perfect. It means consistent effort. It means communication that doesn't vanish when things get uncomfortable. It means the ability to repair after conflict instead of disappearing. It means emotional responsibility. It means them being able to say, I understand what I did, I see how it affected you, and I'm willing to rebuild trust through actions. Not just words, not just charm, not just chemistry, actions. Because if they reach out and it's vague, if it's half-hearted, if it's just a late night I miss you, with no conversation about what happened, you don't have to attack them, you don't have to lecture them, you simply respond with calm clarity. You can say, I'm open to talking, but I'm not doing confusion again. You can say, if we're going to reconnect, I need consistency and honesty. And then you watch, because your boundaries are not a speech, they're a filter. They reveal who is serious and who is simply lonely. And I know the fear you have, the fear that if you ask for clarity, you'll scare them off, the fear that if you have standards, they'll leave. And listen to me, if your standards scare someone off, they were never coming back to love you properly. They were coming back to see if you were still available, still soft, still waiting, still willing to accept the bare minimum. And that is not a reunion, that is a relapse. And you are too self-aware now to call a relapse a miracle. You have to understand how avoidant dynamics work in this moment. When they feel you slipping away, when they feel the distance becoming permanent, their attachment system can activate. They can feel longing, they can feel panic, they can feel regret, and that can pull them back towards you. But regret is not transformation. Longing is not maturity. Panic is not commitment. Those feelings can fade the moment they feel you close again. And then the old pattern returns. They get what they wanted: reassurance, comfort, access. And then their fear of closeness shows up again, and they pull away, and you're left holding the same ache, just with fresher bruises. So the new you does not confuse emotion with readiness. The new you understands that someone can love you and still not be capable of loving you well. The new you knows that chemistry is not compatibility, and the new you refuses to be someone's halfway home, a place they visit when they're tired of being alone, only to disappear when intimacy asks them to grow. This is why your power is in your pace, not your passion. Your pace is what protects you. You don't rush because you're hungry. You don't over-explain because you're afraid. You don't offer all your softness up front to prove you're still good. You let them earn the layers again. You let trust rebuild slowly, because trust that returns too fast is not trust. It's desperation, and desperation is the fastest way to lose yourself. And here is the part that is going to sting and heal at the same time. You must be willing to let them lose you, not as a threat, not as a game, but as a truth. Because the moment you become willing to lose someone who cannot meet you with consistency is the moment you stop being controlled by their choices and you start being led by your own. You stop living in reaction and you start living in alignment. So if they reach out, you don't respond like someone who has been waiting to be rescued. You respond like someone who has been rebuilding their life, someone who has been healing, someone who knows what they bring to the table, someone who knows that love is not supposed to feel like constant anxiety, someone who knows that a real connection has room for honesty, room for needs, room for boundaries, room for repair. And if they can't hold that, then they can't hold you. And I want you to take this with you because it's the strongest thing you can believe. You are not asking for too much. You are asking the wrong person for the right things. And if they come back with real effort, real consistency, real accountability, then you can explore that with an open heart and a wise mind. But if they come back with the same vagueness, the same half steps, the same disappearing act, then the most loving thing you can do is not to chase them, not to beg them, but to choose yourself fully, calmly, and without apology. So, yes, watch for the signs if you want, but don't worship them. Let signs be a doorway, not a decision. Let them be an invitation to observe, not an invitation to surrender, because the goal is not that they reach out. The goal is that if they reach out with the capacity to be in your life without breaking you, with the maturity to communicate, with the courage to be consistent, with the humility to own what they did, and with the willingness to build something that doesn't require you to keep shrinking your needs to survive.